It didn't start with a buzzer beater or a title celebration. It started with a whisper, one that grew louder until the whole sports world took notice. When NBA icon Steph Curry spoke out, it wasn't to boost his image or launch a campaign. It was something deeper. He broke his silence, not for himself, but to stand up for Caitlin Clark, and in doing so, he shattered the quiet that had lingered over the WNBA. No press strategy, no cameras in place, just honesty, and it hit like a shockwave. Why would a global superstar with nothing to prove speak out when the league itself stayed quiet? Because he'd had enough. He saw what others refused to name. Game after game, Caitlin Clark wasn't just competing, she was under fire. The court had become a battlefield. And finally, someone with influence said what needed to be said. Cheap shots. A level of aggression that went far beyond normal defense. For Caitlin Clark, this was becoming routine. She wasn't just being guarded, she was being targeted. Punished not for any wrongdoing, but for daring to be great in a league still adjusting to a brand of star power. Game after game, the hits came, and the whistles silent. Officials looked away. League leaders said nothing, and when they should have stepped in, they stayed quiet and off the court. The narrative around her started to shift. The same commentators who once praised her skills now began questioning her character. Subtle jabs in columns suggested she didn't belong or couldn't handle the heat. Debates erupted on whether she was just hype. Meanwhile, Caitlin was doing the unthinkable, drawing record crowds, smashing TV ratings, and bringing national attention the league had long hoped for. She was the spark lighting up arenas across the country, and still, the league left her on her own. No protection, no statement, just silence. Action. No public support, no unified message from the league, just silence, a loud, unmistakable kind of silence that looked a lot like abandonment. And people noticed, especially Steph Curry. So when he finally spoke, that it wasn't part of a media tour. It wasn't polished or rehearsed. It was raw. It was real. Caitlin Clark is the real deal, he said. It's time the league treated her that way. Those words didn't just make waves, they detonated. Social media caught fire. Pundits paused mid-sentence. And fans who had sensed something was off finally had a powerful voice speaking their truth. That voice just happened to belong to one of the greatest players basketball has ever known. But this wasn't just about support. Steph didn't sugarcoat, he didn't tiptoe. He took aim at the system itself, at the league's failure to protect its most valuable star. He wasn't asking for change. He was demanding accountability. This was about more than one player. It was about fairness, respect, justice, and the moment couldn't have been more urgent or more painful. Caitlin Clark had just come through one of the toughest stretches of her career. The physical play had gone too far. When Caitlin Clark suffered a groin injury, it became more than a medical update, it became a symbol of the WNBA's silence, its refusal to act. Fans were already asking the tough question, does the league truly value what she brings? Then Steph Curry spoke, and he didn't just lend support, he validated what so many had been shouting into the void. This wasn't just a player offering praise. This was a 4-time NBA champion, 2-time MVP, Olympic gold medalist, and one of the most influential athletes alive, standing firmly in her corner. When Curry speaks, the world listens, not because he's loud, but because his voice is earned. His legacy was built from the ground up. His credibility isn't for sale. And yet, the momentum didn't stop there. LeBron James stepped in next. She's a game changer, he said, and when LeBron makes a statement like that, it doesn't just echo, it reshapes the conversation. It was more than support. It was something bigger. This was no longer just about respect. It was about recognition. Caitlin Clark wasn't just being defended, she was being crowned. Luka Doncic stepped in. She's the best active women's player. No hedging, no soft language, just facts coming from one of the top 3 players on the planet. Praise like that isn't tossed around lightly, it's massive. Even Trae Young, never one to hold back, joined the chorus with more than just words. He threw out a challenge, a 3-point contest, him versus Caitlin, at NBA All-Star Weekend. It wasn't a gimmick, it was a statement. That was respect. That was acknowledgement. That was one of the NBA's sharpest shooters saying, "You belong with us." Tyrese Halliburton followed soon after, placing Caitlin Clark in elite company, one of the 5 most famous basketball players in the world, regardless of gender. Steph, LeBron, Luka, Giannis, Caitlin. Let that sink in. The message wasn't just clear, it was thunderous. And Clark wasn't just rising, she had arrived, and the NBA was ready to welcome her in. But here's the twist. While some of the biggest names in the men's game were publicly backing her, parts of the WNBA stayed noticeably quiet. Even after Steph, even after LeBron, the silence from certain league officials and players spoke louder than words, as if showing her support came with a price. In some cases, it clearly did. When Jason Tatum was asked to name his favorite WNBA player, he didn't just skip over Caitlin, he didn't mention her at all. No shout out, no acknowledgement, just a flat, distant response that felt more like a rejection than oversight. And then there was Kevin Durant. Asked about his favorite female athlete, He didn't just go in a different direction, he chose Angel, Reese Caitlyn's biggest on-court rival. That wasn't just a preference, that was a statement, whether it came from loyalty, competition, or something deeper. One thing was clear, not everyone was ready to embrace the game's new queen. Personal and fans could sense it. But even in the shadows, Caitlin Clark only shone brighter. Because when you've earned your spotlight through talent, grit, and undeniable numbers, no amount of shade can dim your light. Caitlin didn't need validation from every player or pundit. She had already built her case stat by stat, sold out arena by sold out arena. She revived cities that had long stopped paying attention to the WNBA. Teenage boys wore her jersey. Families reshaped their weekends just to catch her play. This wasn't hype, this was momentum. She wasn't riding a wave, she was the wave, lifting the league with her, whether everyone liked it or not. And when Durant and Tatum signed, her fans didn't hold back. The backlash on social media was swift and fierce. People weren't just defending Caitlyn, they were defending what she represented. Didn't just rally around Caitlyn, they demanded answers. Why was the WNBA's biggest name being overlooked by the very athletes who claimed to champion the growth of the game? Why the silence, or worse, why the subtle pushback? This wasn't just disrespect, it felt deliberate, political, and the public wasn't fooled still. In true Caitlin Clark fashion, she didn't fire back on social media. No subtweets, no doubt. She did what she's always done, she showed up and dominated. Every no-look assist, every logo range 3. Every time she made defenders stumble, it all spoke louder than any statement ever could. The message was crystal clear: I don't need your approval. I already own the moment. But the real story, it was hidden in the silence. Because by refusing to lift her up, some players ended up doing the opposite of what they intended. They made her impact impossible to ignore. The discomfort wasn't about her game. It was about what her presence meant. Caitlin Clark wasn't just changing the WNBA, she was reshaping it, where stars are celebrated, not silenced. That's how one overseas scout described Caitlin Clark's rising influence. Her name wasn't just famous in the US, it was becoming global currency. Whether the WNBA fully embraced her or not, the rest of the basketball world had already taken notice, and soon the sponsors followed. Big brands Nike, Gatorade, Apple, once focused solely on men's sports, started lining up to work with her. They didn't wait for the league's green light. They saw what the WNBA wouldn't admit. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a player. She was a movement. And movements don't ask for permission. Her endorsement deals soared. Her face lit up billboards in Times Square, dominated commercials during NBA games, and appeared in primetime TV interviews. She became the living link between the WNBA and mainstream culture, a connection no marketing team could fake. And the devotion of her fans unmatched. When Caitlin missed the WNBA All-Star Weekend with an injury, ticket resale prices dropped nearly 50% overnight. That was no accident. That was a wake-up call for the league, a bold reminder that this surge wasn't driven by the WNBA itself. It was powered by Caitlin Clark. Yet, despite her undeniable impact, the league's response was cautious at best. Official statements barely mentioned her name. Marketing campaigns seldom put her front and center. Even as she dominated every stat sheet and social platform, it felt intentional, like the league was scared to fully back its brightest star. But Steph Curry wasn't afraid. He stepped up and led where others hesitated. By defending Caitlin Clark, he wasn't just standing up for one player, he was calling out a system that had failed her. He held up a mirror, and the reflection was clear: a league unready for the star it desperately needed. Caitlin Clark wasn't here to ask for support. She demanded it quietly, powerfully, through her talent, her presence, and her poise. Backing her wasn't optional, it was essential. And Steph Curry, he was just the first giant to call it like it is. Others followed, but only after Caitlin Clark had already proven what he bravely said first: she's not just worthy, she's essential. That validation coming from outside the WNBA made the league's silence all the more deafening. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the WNBA needed that public spotlight, that kind of wake-up call, to finally step up now. With every game, every highlight reel, every record shattered, Caitlin Clark makes one thing crystal clear: the silence that once surrounded her is gone, obliterated. Because when Steph Curry speaks, the world listens. And now that he's spoken, the eyes of the basketball universe are fixed on her relentlessly, and there's no turning back. Caitlin Clark isn't just playing basketball, she's rewriting its future. While some stars hesitated, the fans made their choice loud and clear. Ratings soared, merchandise flew off shelves, arenas sold out. This wasn't hype, this was history in the making, and it's only accelerating. Caitlin Clark doesn't just play the game, she transforms it. Every pass, every move, every confident step forward is revolutionary. She isn't trying to mimic the men's game, she's defining her own. And the world can't get enough. What makes her even more unstoppable? Her silence, no clapbacks, no rants, no pity posts. She lets her game do the talking. Every dribble, every shot from deep, every clutch moment screams, "You can't ignore me." And now, she doesn't have to speak for herself because Steph Curry, LeBron, Luka, Trey, and millions of fans have found their voice for her. Even Pascal Siakam and Obi Toppin have joined the chorus, saying, "Caitlyn generates more fan energy than some NBA stars." That's not exaggeration, it's a seismic shift in basketball's cultural landscape. The WNBA isn't just growing, it's orbiting around CAITLYN.N with Steph's blessing. The message couldn't be clearer.